morning to all the students and dignitaries present here today for a webinar on the need for digital solutions to business entities. Let me have the honor of introducing the resource person of today's program, Dr. Srinivasan Vaidyanathan. Dr. Srinivasan Vaidyanathan is a former director of projects in Cognizant India. He is an accomplished and result-driven delivery director in the IT services industry and has 25 years of progressive managerial and leadership experience. He has donned multifaceted roles working with IT giants like Cognizant and Capgemini. He has also led large-scale software deliveries for several flagship customers that cut across varied industrial sectors. He has demonstrated success of delivery management, business development, resource planning, financials, HR, and quality management in his professional domain. He has hands-on experience in leading knowledge management initiatives at various capacities in his corporate tenure. He has proven abilities to implement standards, procedures, and processes that improve software delivery and quality. He has a PhD in knowledge management from BIT and MS in software engineering from BITS. His PhD thesis is in the areas of knowledge sharing through social media, knowledge creation, and individual performance in IT organizations. To his credit, he has published several key research papers and book chapters in the areas of knowledge management and software engineering in reputed international journals and publications. Once again, I welcome you, sir, and may I request you to take over the session, please?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that brief introduction. Appreciate that. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. I welcome you to my session on the need for digital solutions to business entities. That's the agenda. We're going to talk about the current business environment challenges, both from a corporate scenario as well as from a digital solutioning perspective. Then we will move on to the need for and the benefits of digital solutions. What is the real need for digital solutions and what are the benefits we accrue from implementing digital solutions. We'll take a sneak preview of the new age technologies for digital solutions, what's available on the cards and what are the business outcomes by implementing such technologies. Then we'll take a deeper dive on implementing digital solutions, both from an approach perspective, strategy perspective, how do we implement digital on startups, as well as for established companies. Then we'll also take a sneak preview of the digital solutions with various industry examples, from insurance industry, manufacturing, banking, retail, healthcare, and whatnot. We'll also talk about some of the barriers to digital solutions and what prevents us from doing the digital solutions for future transformations. And with that prelude, we'll also just set the expectations from a management perspective and what the students and academia can really do to mitigate such barriers for a successful future transformation of digital solutions. And finally, we'll conclude the session with what we learned so far in this discussion. And how do we know that a company has transformed into digital? What are the indicators? And opening the floor for Q&A. In terms of Q&A, we can either do an online or offline, depending on how the situation goes, how the session goes. With that background on agenda, I'll move on further. That's about me. Already Dr. Usha ma'am talked about my profile in short. A couple of additional pointers about my profile. I have seen the best of both the worlds, on-site and offshore. I've been on multiple assignments on business, whether it is short-term travel or long-term travel, to almost all geographies other than Australia and New Zealand. Rest of the geographies I've been there, I've done some business for flagship key customers. I worked on multiple industrial sectors. Barring energy and utilities and maybe professional services, the rest of the key industry verticals that IT companies practice, I had the opportunity of working with some of those customers. I'm also an ACE contributor to academia. My contribution to academia involves going for campuses, recruiting the talents, getting the cream of the campuses. I had also been part of the academic councils or advisory boards for a few of the academic institutions. My research interest includes knowledge management, social media, and software engineering. I published book chapters and articles in reputed international journals and publication firms. So that's about it in terms of my additional pointers on introduction. Let's move on with the crux of our topic now. We'll start with the business environment challenges. As I spoke, it's going to be looked upon from two different dimensions, one from a corporate perspective, other from a digital solutioning perspective. On the corporate perspective, the first and foremost challenge what the corporate sees is the survival to growth orientation. What I mean by survival is traditionally the corporates are meant to clock in more and more revenue, right? The growth is more in terms of revenue. But off late, the revenue is retarded, right, with various environmental, economical, global factors. Right? So they focused more in terms of accelerating the earnings growth by various cost-cutting measures, whether it is productivity improvements, outsourcing, process redesign and whatnot, right? So they were trying to put up some sort of a good number on the earnings growth despite anemic sales. But the real question is how long that model can be sustained. Can we really look at regaining the momentum on revenue growth, and how do we tap into the latest opportunities in the digital world, right? With the digital taking over the industries by leaps and bounds. Second is in terms of how do we do things differently to be a high performer, right? That's a key challenge for organizations. They have to be both David and Goliaths of the world in the business, right? They have to be a voluminous player. They also have to be a niche player in certain market segments and in certain solution offerings, right? The third is in terms of developing a broader and deeper view of the market opportunities. They have to focus on mile wide and inch deep, as well as inch wide and mile deep in terms of the market potential and how we can tap into those potential with the deployment of digital technologies. They have to be much more innovative in strategy and structure than their competitors. Pretty self-explanatory, and again, collaborative and communicative with partners. They need to take a much more holistic and long-term approach in terms of succeeding in the business. The last is very key, faster decision-making and execution to tap into the digital market opportunities and potential. So that would mean that they need to be a quick learner and a quick executioner to really leverage the opportunities that the digital is throwing to the world. Yeah. Moving on, from a digital solutioning perspective, right here, the corporates are really fraught with multiple challenges. The technologies are really throwing to them. The rise of new technologies, changing customer preferences, they are really subjected to digital forces, right? They also aim to speed time to value, improve agility, strengthen the core capabilities, spark their innovation, power their existing IT. So many factors are to be re-improved or refactored to meet the digital business demands, right? And the third is in terms of the pace of technology, that advancement of the technology is much faster, much quicker than the pace of execution of last innovation. So you have to be super fast in terms of picking up a particular innovation and implementing them and getting the real leverage or value out of such implementation. They need to have more elastic, nimble applications and platforms, which can also increase their vulnerabilities. We're going to talk about what strategies we can put in place to mitigate such vulnerabilities. And the real need of the hour is to craft a well-designed strategy. By saying the strategy, I mean you need to have a simplified IT, modernized IT, and secure IT. By simplification, we mean what do we really do about the existing heritage systems? How do we unlock their efficiency and potential? So that is number one. Number two, modernizing the IT, right? How can we provide the next generation on-demand utilities? It may be in terms of the cloud architecture or services-based architecture, automation and whatnot. There are a plethora of such next generation offerings and services which needs to be brought to the table by IT in terms of modernization. With the Simplify IT and modernizing the IT in place, reshaping the IT landscape, definitely the vulnerabilities are more. You are exposing more APIs, you are sharing more data, which means that security enabling your IT is also a key factor. Your strategy should include how do we make sure the security is a key aspect? How do we take care of cyber risks or information security risks, right? So those are to be focused on. So your strategy has to be a three-pronged approach, catering to simplification of IT, modernization of IT, and security enabling your IT. The need for digital solutions, it is broadly driven by these factors, digitization. We call it as everybody or every human to everything, E to E model, right? Everything should be connected across the geos, markets, with every people, every human that are available in every possible ways, right? Consumerization, right? How do we personalize or give a frictionless experience to the customer, right? And how do we make sure the where, when, and why of the customer, where they really wanted, why they wanted, when they wanted, how do we personalize such experiences is what is driven by consumerization. Then democratization, we call it as Uberization or shared economy, right? How do we clearly just tap into this rise of on-demand products and services in wake of sharing economy? Globalization, the flow of ideas, information, and innovations across geographies, industries, and networks. So how do we make it much more collaborative across the geos and regions? The last but one point, millennials, the new generation uh, always expect things go at a lightning speed. They expect adoption of new technologies to ease their job and embrace them real quick. So that is also one of the key factors that drives certain technologies to be, agile, faster, turnarounds, and whatnot. Finally, organizations to stay flexible and agile. So those are the various needs for coming up with digital solutions in corporates. Benefits, I would pause here for about 10-15 seconds. I'll let you read some of these bullets. Are pretty self-explanatory. The first three bullets, even the legacy technologies or the older generation solutions, they were able to really give us some leverage, some mileage, right? Whether it is integrating business processes, easing the business planning and improving the record keeping, increased productivity and flexibility, and all these have been provided by the earlier technologies, legacy technologies in some shape and form, and in some quantities, right? Definitely some quantum measures were there. But digital definitely wanted to throw light on these benefits at a larger scale, right? So digital is giving much more benefits, more voluminous and more quantitative benefits. But the key is the last three bullets: portability, scalability, and security, which is differentiating digital to a greater extent. It helps furnish every new change in technology. And the changes, application of changes in technology is made much more easier with a stronger digital backbone, right? Scalability, how do we make sure the customer base is increasing? Number of clients are increasing in an enterprise. Security, we already talked about. We need to provide complete security to information and access control. So these are some of the key benefits of digital solutions at scale. I just wanted to present Harvard Business Review's Analytics Services Survey to drive home the point that the investments on digital, are they really fructifying or not? Is it really worth doing the investments by corporate on digital solutioning? Obviously, the benefits are any corporate implementing an enterprise solution, digital solution will really look for. As you could see, the improved customer service and experience, increased insight into customer needs and expectations, cost savings, improving the profitability, increasing the revenues, all vital parameters, vital measures that any corporate would love to have, right? And what is desired and what is achieved is what is given in the next two columns. As you could see, there is definitely momentum. There is movement of the needle, but not to the extent as desired, right? Which is given in the second column. So whether does it really fructify the investments? Yes, the answer is yes. But is it to the scale expected? Possibly not. And one of the key influential factor why it is not happening that way is not more and more companies are getting onboarded on digital platforms. There are so many inhibitors. We're going to talk about it in the future slides. But the real need of the hour is more and more corporates, companies to really get on board on the digital platform and then derive all these benefits as forecasted, as anticipated by the survey. Let's take a quick sneak preview of some of the new age technologies for digital solutions. What you could see on the left-hand side is these are broad areas and topics. There could be multiple platforms and tools and techniques within this. We're not going to delve into them much. It is sufficient to understand that these are the broad areas of new digital technologies or solutions available, and what are the business outcomes. What you will see on the right-hand side is the business outcomes tied to some of these digital enablers, right? AI and analytics, automation, cloud-based solutioning, cybersecurity, data science, and digital engineering. enterprise content management, Internet of Things, machine learning. These are very key broad tenets or areas of digital solutioning. Some of the enablers of the outcomes, what you see on the right-hand side is advanced analytics. You will deploy them to lower the R&D cost of any particular company. Augmented reality, virtual reality assisted maintenance to improve the on-time and efficiency of the IT functioning or any solutioning. Robotics process automation to reduce the cost of operations of a company. Internet of Things, providing the connected experiences in the ecosystem. We'll see one of the examples in the manufacturing sector in the industry examples later on. Then conversational AI, which is to again lower the total cost of ownership and new operating capabilities. So it is sufficient to know this broad spectrum of technologies exists on the new age digital solutions. And the company should prioritize based on their business priorities, what technology stack they should really implement to derive what business outcome. It is purely in the capable hands of companies to pick and choose the right technology or platform implementation and then derive the benefits that are supposedly to generate out of the implementations. Yeah, now we are moving on to the deeper dive on the implementing digital solutions. What are the various strategies and approaches? How do we do digital implementation in a startup or more so from an established company? Startup, it is pretty easy because they are starting afresh and they can do any radical changes. They can go for a big bang approach. But the emphasis is more on established companies, how they can do the digital implementation, given their scale and complexity. So implementing digital solutions, enterprises have been focusing on how best to leverage digital, right? But at the same time, they are vested with the task of maintaining their heritage systems. So they need to follow a phased approach to going digital. So it cannot be a big bang, right off the bat, overnight changes in digital arena. And as business savvy leaders, you need to know digital solutions will inherit your industry in future. So that is a key point. One way or the other, you will need to pick up the momentum, right? As early players, by virtue of their nature of business, for example, technology sector companies, finance companies, media companies, they have been already early players, early adopters of digital. There are some trailers like, those who are regulated, some on the financial sectors, insurance, life sciences, they are high regulatory compliance requirements. They were a little shying away from going the digital way. But at the end of the day, as your competitors shaking up your business, it is imperative that you make the move into digital. So it will eventually happen. They will keep pace with the forerunners, right? Eventually. So there is no escape in terms of going digital. That's a key message in the second bullet. Third, as I spoke, it needn't be only a digital startup. It could be an established, successful company, right? Leveraging its many assets. Because such companies have a good customer base, right? They have a trusted brand and they have a plethora of assets, right? Bunch of assets that they can really put into use, like the physical assets, channels, customers, partners, brand equity, knowledge of industry know-how, whatnot. I think they've been in the business for long and they have a wider customer base and their know-how of the industry is also quite experiential. So everything they have, the size or complexity to their side, right? And they can better navigate the complexities of digital launch. So they shouldn't be worried, but at the same time, they should leverage all this, what they have to make the shift. But as I spoke earlier, in a phased manner, we'll talk about it in a bit. So for established businesses, capitalizing on digital requires a lasting transformation. Why a lasting transformation? We'll talk about in the next slide. Because the digital enabling is a continuum, right? From being digital to doing digital, right? Whether you are changing a particular area in a company or changing the entire company, or you are changing the game in the industry, in the business, right? These three are the broad tenets within the continuum, right? Being digital to doing digital. But the big companies should really take a phased approach in ensuring that they're doing the digital way. So the evolution of such organizations to changing the game is going to be a phased manner. So we'll take a deep dive on that in the next slide. So why a lasting transformation, right? It sounds logical, but why a lasting transformation is it so difficult? Yes, it is difficult, right? What you see on the second bullet, a couple of reasons. I know these are pretty intuitive reasons. You might not really think of them as something new or something, something really out of the box, right? But seeing them in one view, you get that aha moment. Why it is different. Why is it difficult? First and foremost, there are digital forces at play wreaking havoc, right, across every part of your organization. You need to change your strategy, product, services, and experience, what your corporate creates. Then the people and processes that are really delivering them, right? There are changes required at that layer as well. A third, which is most important, technology stack, your changes to the data application and infrastructure. So these are the enablers. These are the ones that are making it possible, right? So they need changes as well. Second reason being the pace of putting up worthwhile wins real quick. Worthwhile here, what I mean is something to hang your hat on, right? Something to get some value out of it, making it real quick. And the pace of projects in the current world is going at a clock speed, right? Short clock speed. So what is expected is you pick up something, put some score on the board, right? Deliver it, put some score on the board, and you take up the next in row, take it as a position, and do it again, right? That kind of a model. So the pace of taking up projects and delivering, right? That is also a key factor impeding the transformation, right? So these two are major reasons, but like I said, yeah, seeing it in a one unified view, you get the aha moment, you feel that why it is a lasting transformation. And as I spoke earlier, it's only through a succession. You take something, you deliver, you put some brownie points, right, on the board, you take up the next in line and again do it again, right? That kind of a succession approach across the various stacks. We are going to talk about the client stacks later on. So whether it is a business strategy layer or a operating model layer, technology layer, you make changes by making the point solutions, right, to those elements or constituent elements in those stacks, and then getting the value or deriving the value for digital solution. So that's how you transform from doing digital to being digital, right? I'm moving on to the next slide now. Yeah, as I spoke, here is a deep dive or exploded view, right? Initially, I gave you a sneak preview, a bird's eye view, right? How you should really implement and why is it taking so long? Why it has to be a lasting transformation for established companies? But now we are getting to granular details, right? Taking a deep dive. As I spoke, it requires changes at three different layers: business model layer, operating model layer, technology model layer. So business model, focusing on new products, services, and user experiences, so the company can compete with their peers. So how we can change something which is path breaking, right? How you give the best personalized experiences to your customers. So how are you focusing on such products? More at your business model or business strategy level changes. Then the operating model, focusing on internal, external, smart, on-demand utilities. So how do you create the next generation services? How do you enable them for internal, external customers? The third is the technology layer, where you focus on, we already spoke on this strategy. How do you simplify the IT, modernize the IT, and security enable the IT? And we'll again further take an exploded view in the next slide of this client stack, which is implementing digital solutions at a client stack level, much more deeper themes and solutioning, right, across the three levels that we talked earlier, layers that we talked earlier. So in the business layer, it is strategy, user experience, product, services, and commercial model as the themes. And what you get as a solutioning for strategy is your physical digital connect. What I mean here is a very calculated, well-defined, realistic, efficient strategy, how you convert the broad idea, right, into an implemented change, connecting both the physical and digital, right, connecting both the products and the customers or the humans, right? So that's a very key approach in devising a strategy. You cannot create boil the ocean programs where there is no tangible measures to say whether your implementation is successful or not, right? So you need to be having a well-crafted strategy making sure the broken down strategy into implemented changes, and is that really deriving any benefits, right? Second is user experience, right? Design thinking user experience. Here, the user experience cannot be simply the aesthetics or make it pretty, make it neat as it used to be in the older world, right? Legacy world. We create only to make it visually stunning GUI, right? But here it has to be much more intuitive, simple, and elegant. It has to be catering to the needs of the customer, right? Personalizing to the needs of the customer. So that level of user experience is what is the next theme in the business layer. Then products and services, we already spoke. Personalize your products, make it smart. We're going to talk about examples in the later slide to come. Then the commercial model. This is again very key for you to be successful. You need to deliver everything as a service, more consumption-based patterns, consumption-based models, making it capex light, right? Capital expenditure light. Gone are the days where you are sticking to only the input-based or output-based models. So you need to also be innovative, coming up with an outcome-based model and how you tie your digital solutioning to derive that business outcomes and then pleasing the customer, right? With such an outcome. So that way you can make a real good revenue growth for your company. Moving on to the operating model layer, people or organization is one thing, and you have to go the agile way. Again, gone are the days where the waterfall model or the incremental model, iterative model, right, for producing the output, right? Which is, yeah, it was serving the purpose to some extent, but yeah, agile way is much more robust, much more agile, much more productive. So you need to make a paradigm shift on your people and organizations to deliver projects in the agile mode. Then the business processes on the intelligent process automation or robotics process automation way on the business processes. And finally, the theme is on operations, whether it is an on-demand utilities or services, business process as a services, platforms and utilities. So how are you making changes to this layer, this model, this theme? Then finally, the technology table stakes. You have UI apps, data and infra. We already spoke in some shape and form. On the UI, it is mobile, voice, and video. And the apps, it is digital engineering cloud. The data, big data, AI, ML, how we can really leverage data to our best advantage, business advantage. Infrastructure, whether it is cloud, secure apps, optimizing the infra and things like that, right? So as you could see that it involves making changes to all these three broad levels or layers, and within which the broken down themes and what sort of a solutioning to be put in place. So the corporates can really tap into the advantages of digital. Again, one more view to say whether it is a phased or big bang. So approach to implementation could be phased or big bang. Maybe the startups can really go the big bang way, but the established businesses should be going the phased way. Three basic hallmarks I would recommend, right? One is choose an outcome with an impact. The first step would be to choose an outcome with an impact. It needn't be a high-hanging fruit or a mid-hanging fruit. It can be even a low-hanging fruit. It can be hanging in anywhere, but you need to target one. But impact to the stakeholders is key. By picking that particular point solution, whether you're making an impact, right? There is a delta or increment or a step change in the stakeholders. So that kind of an impact is key. For example, in life sciences, right? For a medical devices manufacturer, reducing the complaint resolution time. When there is a complaint raised for a particular medical device malfunctioning, are you reducing the complaint resolution time, right? So that's sort of an outcome. And for that, is there a delta change through your digital implementation? Whether it is a point solution or a full-blown solution, right? Is there a direct impact to that kind of an outcome what you have chosen? Then laser sharp transformation, right? You can't change the whole stack overnight. I already spoke from the stack what I've shown earlier. You can pick and choose any particular level, any particular layer or theme or dimension, and then any particular solution. You pick and choose which will have a delta impact, right, on the business outcome what you assume, the impact that you assume. But you have to do it in a clock speed, right? Short clock speed, where, like I said, you pick up something, deliver, and then you pick up next in line and deliver, do it again and deliver. So that kind of a successive approach, it is going to help. Third is speed. Do it at a speed so you can deliver and take up the next one on priority and do it again. So three major factors. One with choose the one with an impact, and making sure that it is very pretty sharp, a point solution attacking a particular business outcome, and do it at really a short clock speed. So you can deliver and pick up the next one and do it again. As again, to reiterate, for established businesses, big bang is not recommended. For startups, definitely a big bang is okay. But for established, they have to go on a phased approach in implementing digital. Some of the new outcome-based KPIs, I wanted to give a flavor of what can be assumed or derived as or put up as a new outcome-based KPI in terms of digital solutioning, digital metrics. One is the faster real-time payment settlements for a bank, right, in the banking industry. Shorter complaint resolutions, we already spoke in the earlier slide for a manufacturer of medical devices. Reduced product launch media spending for a retail company. Less clinical trial administration for a pharma company, right? And then the COVID-19 season, the pandemic really just creating havoc. So you know that how fast all the pharma companies are really going on a crazy speed, right? How fast they can really come up with an vaccine. So how do we make sure the turnaround time is less in terms of coming up with a vaccine soon, and then even in terms of the supply chain logistics, right? Making the vaccine available across the geos, right? So how less clinical trial administration time for a pharma company, how that is going to help in terms of faster turnaround times and helping the humanity. Shorter emergency waiting time for a hospital system. We're going to take a deep dive in a later slide. So some of the new outcome-based KPIs in light of digital solutions are these from various industry examples, right? So now, yeah, I have given a prelude, right, in the earlier slide. What will come up basically as some of the point solutions are implementation of digital solutions to cater to these outcomes, right? And as I spoke earlier, every industry has to be really getting on board. There is no escape from getting on board to the digital train, but it just only the pace of adoption differs, right, depending on the nature of the industry, the priorities, and things like that. But at the end of the day, there is no escape through not going digital. The first one is on insurance-based example, what I thought might be pertinent here. In the property and casualty insurance space, there is an effort going on individualizing car insurance, right? How do we make sure we are customizing the product for individuals? How do we offer customized products for people who drive alike, right? The group of people who drive alike. How do we reprice every month based on their telematics data? How a particular, by their gadgets or mobile devices, and transmitting their data onto a central server. As in how they accelerate and how they turn, how they pull over, right? How many hours they drive. All these parameters can be collected, and based on which they can give a customized pricing or repricing every month for a particular group of drivers, right? Customers. So this is one. And again, in the same property and casualty space, doing a remote property damage assessment is one again area where digital is coming in handy. Again, this was much more pronounced during the COVID-19 pandemic, how the company started doing the assessment, nature of the property damages, how the adjusters really helped to come up with quick assessments. The claims were settled, right? They used aerial imagery and property data in case of natural calamities. A classic example is what we have undergone or what we are undergoing now, the COVID-19. The claims manager look at the imagery to assess what resources are needed and where. The adjusters got the property data, they do the remote assessment again on the damage. So claim settlement on time and faster, right? Happy customer. So what does it mean is increase in inspection times, decrease in assessment costs. So obviously there is a resultant business benefit by implementing such a solution. Moving on, a manufacturing example, I already gave you a hint of the connected products, how it is revolutionizing the manufacturing industry. So here the auto manufacturer, how they can put up a connected product or an IoT, Internet of Things, right, to connect every player in their ecosystem. So that's what it is. Their digital marketplace is data on driver info or log or whatever they can collect from telematics, and the data on spats, location specific, safety, retail, travel and hospitality, insurance, emission, whatever, right? All those data, they form the digital marketplace. And there are direct, indirect, and extended players in the ecosystem. Direct players could be they touch the assets and would be revenue or profit impacted, right? Like component manufacturers, dealers, maintenance providers, drivers, etc. They are directly impacted. Indirect players, they don't touch the assets but would be impacted by the industry performance, like insurance, finance, mobile logistics operators, so on and so forth, right? Extended players not directly impacted or related but have a potential for using those insights for market penetration, like retailers, hospitality, oil and gas, fuel stops, and whatnot, everything, right? So the typical auto manufacturer prioritize and chart the course to realize the potential by having such an IoT implementation, connected products implementation. So every direct, indirect, and extended players can stand to benefit. So one system that connects all of them in the ecosystem. This is an interesting example. I thought again highlight one more in manufacturing industry itself. Some of you or all of you might have known about this Kookaburra cricket ball manufacturer, right? In the process of, they are well known in terms of manufacturing cricket balls. And they are in the process of introducing a microchip embedded in the cricket balls that can withstand the whack of the bat and deliveries as high as 150 kilometers per hour. And they keep the movement sensors inside the ball, right? That can transmit data to an app. And the data can be collected at the point of release, before and after bouncing. Pretty good for league players to play smart. It sends a lot of useful information to play smart. Helps detect ball whether it has hit the hands or the bats and umpires in decision making. Pretty innovative thinking, and the pilot is on, and it's pending approval and use in official test matches, and that's what I heard based on what I last browsed in the source. It throws open the doors for business opportunities in India and elsewhere, right? Quite an innovative thought, and it can definitely throw open the doors for good business opportunities in India and elsewhere. Moving on, the hospital system, and this is a pretty common example everybody encounters, right? In the nowadays in the COVID-19 world, again, distancing, new normal. Distancing is a new normal, and not coming into contact with is a new normal. Even otherwise, in a general scenario, normal scenario, not many patients are allowed in ICU, and it's very restricted hours and things like that, right? It is more pronounced in a COVID-19 scenario where the contact is not at all advisable, right? So entry into ICU is restricted in most hospitals, while the relatives, friends obviously need to know the status of the in-house patients. So hospitals piloting a digital solution to transmit the data of the vitals, along with the video filming of the patient in-house to a mobile app, right? So that way, relatives anytime can check their statuses without entering into the ICUs. So, this is again an innovative solution for hospitals, right? So that way you can avoid, and you can also put this standard operating procedures or statutory compliance or whatever mandated requirements. The next is again an example where, how confident are you administering, the doctors administering the medicines to the patients in-house, right? They also put up a standard operating procedures with a defined workflow on the course of actions to take if the vital parameters go above or below the threshold level. So they do have some standard operating procedures, which is basically with a view to help with this standard analytics or prescriptive action, right, which is put in place. Avoid the subjectivity from the nurses or the doctors that attend to the patients in ICU. And you're also confident that there is no bias or prejudice or there is no partiality or whatever, right? They know that there is a standard procedure and there is a standard prescription. If something goes in, it's like a heuristic, right? If this is what it is, these are the set of actions to take, right? So the hospitals definitely stand to benefit with these two, the entry into the ICU throwing digitized solutions there, as well as administering the medicines to the patients in the form of a standard operating procedures, right? So that's on the hospital systems. Now we are going to see the banking example. It's pretty interesting solution. I'll let you go and read this by yourself if time permits. The Tiger Analytics blog, right? That's where I picked this up. How do we make sure we avoid the customer churn in banks, right? And what the banks can really do about it. So that is a premise with which this digital solution is put in place, or at least conceptually devised, right? Can they put in an intervention strategy by gaining a deeper understanding of the customer behavior from the data at hand? So they need to define the customer churn. What is a churn is? What are my high net worth customers? What is a churn is? And all that definition should go in. The model should also come up with a prediction window, right? How long or short my predictions are going to be. Is it for the next 6 months or 1 year or whatever? Then define the churn at a product level or relationship level, whether the churn from the customer is going to be from a product to product, or even at a bank to bank level, right? I'm even quitting one bank and joining another bank, right? Associating myself with other bank. So define all this, then build the customer data set, apply feature engineering, sentiment analysis. Let's not get into the details. There are plenty of algorithms, machine learning algorithms, that can be applied to cull out, whatever insights this particular model is looking for. So we provide the business teams with the churn score. The moment the IT comes up with all and provide this with the churn score, obviously the customer relationship management can really do something about it. Can I prevent this bunch of customers churning from me, right? Either at a product level or relationship level. The key is to generate the interest, right, in adopting such a model or putting into practice such a model. You need to be much more creative, innovative in designing your business outcome or a goal, right? Saying that, let's say 70% of the customer churn can be avoided with this prediction model in the next 6 months, right? Could be one way to generate interest. Even with your top management to get their stakes, right? You need to get their buy-in at the end of the day. And the second could be, I'm going to save $20 million business, right? As a balance outflow, getting out of the bank or whatever. Something to have a numeric value that is inviting to all the stakeholders to approve and implement such a solution, right, in your organization. Put the model to test. I think the test is more of a test versus control approach. Keeping one group as a control group and keeping that as a baseline, churn rate as a baseline, observing the incremental effect in the test group to see that how it is going and things like that. Come up with a model. Yeah, anyway, the nuances are a little outside the scope of what it is, but the broad message is that you can apply this to come up with a prediction model that can prevent customer churning at a product or relationship level. Okay. And in general, some other industries like retail, for example, the beverage retailers tend to use the consumer demographic and profiling analysis to provide customized beverage needs of a consumer, right? You have a demographic data and you go and you want to have a beverage from the fountain, right? So you go to the fountain screen. The fountain screens the consumer's identity by eyeball movement, eyeball screening, and maps the real-time data on cloud about the consumer profile, medical history, preference, etc. Right? If you are a diabetic, maybe low sugar or no sugar, right? Something like that. That kind of a customization is possible based on reading your data and then mapping that with the real-time data, right? Then the beverage is mixed in real time according to the requirements and dispensed at the fountain. Look at the level of innovation and personalization or customization. Look at the level of customer experience, a happy, ecstatic customer experience that can really throw into the customers, right? The next is again on pharma, more to again customize the dosage requirements of medicines. Right? There's no one size fits all, right? When it comes to, for example, let's say, Calpol 500, right? It is a common generic pill that you provide to all people at adult level, right? But can we further customize it based on the physical parameters and the patient requirements and medical diagnosis? So that, a person A can be given a Calpol 350, a Calpol 150, right? How do we make sure instead of making generic medicines and then generically prescribing that to all adults, can I customize it based on the physical parameters and medical diagnosis? So this is again a thought in place and pilot in place. Production happens just in time. The advantage of is that you don't have to do a mass production. You can, take the just-in-time data and accordingly go with your production planning, right? And reorder quantity according to the patient's consumption patterns is also something which is great. So you again collect the patient consumption patterns. Replenishing or reordering the quantity is also an easy ball game, right? With this kind of a data that you collect from the patients on the ground. So I think with that, I hope that provides you a very deep dive view of what the various industries are really providing in the point solutions or path breaking solutions across the layers that we talked about in the digital area. So now we are shifting gears to the barriers to digital solutions and future transformation. So now that we have talked about all these benefits, needs, and how do we implement, what are the phases, things like that. But what are the real barriers to digital solutions? And how do we really making some changes at the management level or at the company's level and academia level to foster such a future transformation? So what are the impediments to achieving transformation? Right. Again, I put in the survey results by HBR. Right. This will give you a bird's eye view of the ensuing slides, which is again taking a blown up view or an exploded view. But by and large, these are the impediments, right? Which is organizations restructuring challenges, resistance to change, lack of key skills, challenges of going away from legacy, cost and complexity of cyber threat management, regulatory constraints, sensitive nature of data and business. We already talked about some of the businesses are not going the digital way because of the regulatory compliance, right? The lack of right technology in place, consumer political disquiet, a lack of necessary market relationships. So plenty of impediments, and you also see the degrees, right, the percentage with which they're impacting us. So the idea is to again make changes in the companies and management and academia, I think, to reduce this, right, to whatever minimal level. Absolute zero is not feasible, but to as minimal as possible, so that way we can foster digital solutions and making the future transformation easier. So the first broad section is expectations from management in the corporates. So all we need is a contemporary management, right? The conventional management has to go. The management has to look at everything in the lens of digital, right? Re-establish a new base of technology, processes, metrics, and incentive mechanisms. So gone are the legacy technologies, gone are the legacy processes. You need to look at everything new, afresh, put in the best of the breed technologies and the related processes, metrics, and incentive mechanisms. Enabling a significant shift involves both the leaders and employee level changes. Right? At the end of the day, it's a paradigm shift. So it has to be at the leaders level as well as employees levels. So they should discard the systems and structures that define their job thus far. Right? People will hoard the knowledge because that is what have gotten them to the position what they are in. So people might be hesitant, they might be hoarding the knowledge, they might not be forthcoming to make the change seamless, right? Safe choices, reliable revenues, and improving products at margins are no longer status quo. We already talked about it. So competition with the growth hacking mindset and bold choices of competitors, right? So obviously these are the requirements for you to be also a competitor in the digital world and make the real movement on the revenue growth. So you need to tap into more and more the revenue growth on the digital business. Significant departure from tightly structured, planned strategy approach to strategic investments. Again, gone are those days, where you have a rigid approach to strategic investments, and something fails, and that's it. You are back to square one or back to the drawing board, redrawing the whole strategic investments. It has to be, allowing for failing fast. If at all your plan is not really proving the results, you have to be your plan should also allow for failing fast and pivoting to a better strategy or investments from that learning. Okay? So that's most important. So make it much more flexible, and if there is the failure, then how we can quickly just slow back into the track. So that's key from an approach or strategy perspective or investments perspective. Build a key digital skills to digital nirvana, right? We already spoke the spectrum of skills. In the earlier slide, I will also put one slide in the academia section. Like what are the top 10 digital skills that the corporates are looking for? But you need to develop associates from a corporate perspective. There is a training or development program of associates building the required skills in the technology spectrum that we talked earlier across the board. Break the psychological resistance to changing the status quo. I already spoke. people don't want to, people resist change because they don't want to go out of their comfort zone. Because what they have put in time tested is what have gotten them thus far. So they don't want to go out of their comfort zone and try out something new. So you need to break the psychological barriers, right? So ensure your people are embracing the transition. The next is more from your approach or insight into how you do the investments, right? If you simply look at simply a cost perspective or enabling the capabilities of IT systems, then you look at it as some additional investments, cost to the company or revitalizing or modernizing the IT. Simply, it's more of a capability of a department, right? Then you will look at it as you will balk at the cost that you're really, let's say you're putting $5 million. You will look at it as something which is haunting and whether it is going to give you the return on investment or not and things like that, right? Because already the current legacy systems and technologies were nothing but what you have invested, right? The big bucks about whatever number of years ago. So you might look at them as a real sunk cost. And whatever you're investing now in digital is a future, to be sunk cost, right? That kind of a mindset will build up, right? So, but if you change it more from a business perspective, right? How I can look at this as a strategic investment by keeping my business problems to solve, the new customer segments to reach, what pricing models I can adopt, what are the new markets I can really tap into. I think your investments will be much more justified. And if you make a very unified team, both the business and technology together, such an investment, there are high chances of those investments of rectifying as well. So they should keep the business outcomes the key guiding principle. I already spoke the next bullet, the implementing the technology in tandem with the business processes, don't isolate. Technology is only an enabler. At the end of the day, the business should provide the business case and lead the transformation. While the CIO may lead the effort in terms of making the changes, but the exec level sponsorship and leadership is key. The business has to really join hands, create the business case and lead the transformation. So IT people speaking both the language of technology and business is critical. So you should also look at IT in terms of having some business acumen and implementing IT. Then integrate the array of technologies and approaches, including social, mobile, analytics, cloud, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and whatnot. We already have seen this plethora of technologies earlier. We'll also see one more in a couple of slides down the line. Then remove the burden of legacy. This is key. Again, this is where it goes back to the simplify IT that we talked about. The major barriers could be the disconnected data, right? If it is a legacy IT, there is always a technology barrier, siloed data, right? Various systems not interconnected, unintegrated systems, and architecture, lack of standardized and reliable operational backbone, processes, and whatnot. So all these have to be removed as a burden, and we need to enable digital by ensuring simplification of IT first and modernization, and then securing the IT as well. Here comes the point on security. Security cannot be built after your architecture or systems are built. It has to be by design while the systems or applications are built, right? We already spoke, due to the increased exposure of APIs and data sharing, the vulnerabilities are more, right? So your security officers should also join hands and work in tandem and build the right security architecture, right? So that these the new infra and software selections are developed with cyber risks in mind, right? As well as the output is catering to all the security needs and protecting ourselves, right, from the vulnerability of threats. Put in robust governance mechanisms to foster sharing of successful approaches. Business operates across geographies with various businesses, strategic business units, geos, and whatnot. So you should put the right governance mechanisms so that it is monitored, the progress is monitored, and there is a sustenance in the momentum, right? And it's a multi-year effort, requires ownership and management of effort on the long haul. So don't expect changes to happen, the results to really prove in a short window or overnight. So it is going to be a long-run process, multi-year effort. So there is a consistent level of ownership and effort from the management for the long haul. Embrace agile, we already spoke. Design thinking approaches go hand in hand with these efforts. So that is also key. Invest in the digital talent. It's about people that implement the technology. So take your people along with you, workforce along with you. Rethink the metrics to measure and reward success. This is most important. So you already have seen the business outcomes what I have given earlier. So your metrics collection, you're measuring the performance, rewarding the performance, everything should be tied to the new KPIs, new SLAs in place. So accordingly, the compensation structures and bonuses should be really given, which will motivate the associates to perform better, to scale better. Expectations from academia. Academia should offer a blend of academic and professional value courses in keeping with the industry academia gap. There is always a gap that is existing between industry and academia as the industry goes with the more technological changes or advancements. So academia should bridge the gap from time to time, offer plethora of subjects, tools and techniques to leverage in a given technology or business domain. So it has to be technology or business domain, and it should also cater to all the needs of the advancements in the industry. And provide you with the practical industrial visits, real world case studies to relate to your problems and approach a solution. So that way solutioning becomes easy, right? So the moment you get on board, you are already on the job. You can hit the ground running on the day one, right? So it enables you to get to grips with the problems and solutions real fast. Sharing of knowledge across the board from executives on the ground in the form of industry conclaves, guest lectures, visiting faculties, MDPs, management development programs, organizations, behavioral programs, consultancy projects, and whatnot. I think you should engage in every possible way with the latest advancements that are happening in the industry. Work with industry experts for meaningful R&D. Produce updated curriculum and syllabi, establishing corporate advisory boards, academic councils. I talked about I was part of some of these in devising the curriculum, ensuring that we are keeping up with the pace of the industry. So that's that. Yeah, I would let you read. I will pause here for about 10 seconds. The top digital skills the corporates are looking for across the various digital areas and skills. Pretty much what I covered earlier, but this gives you a much more blown up or exploded view, right? What the area is and what are the skills. So now we are going to conclude. So there's no iota of doubt, digital solutions and future transformation is on the agenda across industries. Benefits clearly outweigh the cost as seen earlier. We already spoke about the survey results, and definitely there are benefits, and industries are reaping the benefits, right? There is still remaining time, and you don't need to be shying away that am I leading the pack? You don't have to really worry about that, whether it is, and you don't have to worry whether you are an established company or establishing company. So everyone can stand to benefit from the emerging business practices. Definitely next 2 to 3 years will be a critical time, and the companies better get going. You need to generate new value propositions, customer facing innovations, operational transformation, right? Which are created only by the newer business models the companies has to venture into. We spoke earlier that what are the changes or contemporary management practices that will help you to build newer business models, right? And business outcome led change efforts open the door to future transformation. We already again touched about this in greater detail earlier. So expectations are pretty much on from contemporary management and academia to support the challenge, support the change. How do we know a particular company, they are already in the game? We talked about changing the area, changing the company, and changing the industry or the game, right? These are some of the indicators, when they are reaching lightning speed and organizational velocity. They're analytical, they're analytics driven, they're more from the rule of data becoming a learning company. They are creating markets of individualized offerings. They're approaching near zero in terms of errors and defects as well as marginal costs, right? And finally, their customer satisfaction is at fanatic levels. So these are the clear indicators, you know that you are in the game. Put your best foot forward in enabling them the change again. That's where the goal of every company should be. As we talked about the steps to transformation, we should be in the last quadrant, which is changing the game. With that, I conclude and I will open the floor for Q&A, whether it is online or offline. And I will turn it over back to Dr. Usha.
Digitalization is slowly conquering the whole world by wherein we can monitor even our sleep patterns and decide on a course of action. I'm sure that your talk has given a bird's eye view of what can be achieved through digitalization. The real world examples actually gave us a realistic sense of appreciating the widespread reach of digitalization today. It was a pleasure having you with us, Dr. Srinivasan Vaidyanathan. And let me thank you for consenting readily and coming up with such superb content at such short notice. Thank you once again, and I'm sure our viewers would have a few questions to put forth to you, sir. The audience are encouraged to come up with their views or any queries related to the webinar. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely, anytime. Thank you.